Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. So today we are going to talk about psychopathy, as you can see in the title of the video, and about Jeffrey Dahmer and if he was or not a psycho. And for this we are going to make a very exhaustive analysis of psychopathy from the psychological and the genetics and neuroanatomical point of view in order to understand better this condition. So, to begin with, we're going to define the psychopathy. Psychopathy is a disorder in which the person is not able to feel empathy towards others. These people are only able to feel some kind of reward happiness, but they don't really understand other people's feelings. So this is a big problem because you know that in order to socialize, we need to empathize as well. It's very important to see the difference between antisocial disorder, borderline disorder, and psychopathy disorder, because these three disorders have things in common, but they are not the same. The most difficult to see the difference between them is the psychopathy and antisocial disorder. In antisocial disorder, we have people that don't understand feelings. It's not that they cannot empathize, they can empathize, but they don't understand good the feelings and they are not able to follow the rules of the society. They are very bad at following them and they get in trouble, but not because they are not able to empathize, but because they are not able to understand these rules or to understand well the feelings. So they are not able to socialize properly. And when it comes to borderline disorder, it's true that we have people in borderline disorders that they make really fast decisions and they are very impulsive, but it's not the same as psychopathy, because in borderline disorder they make impulsive decisions and they feel very strongly. So it's different from psycho people that they don't feel, they're not able to feel or understand other people's feeling, because in borderline disorder they feel way too much. So this is the difference between these three disorders. And now we are going to see the psychopathy disorder or psychopathy during the stages of life. We have a baby. When psychos are baby or a psychopath is a baby, these babies are not attached to their mothers. They don't want to be held. They don't want to be next to their mother. They just want to be alone. They are not normal kids. Parents can see that they are not normal kids. And when we go to Jeffrey Dahmer, he was not like this. In fact, the problem that he had is that his mother was under a severe postpartum depression. So she was not able to take care properly of Jeffrey. Also, his father was lots of time out of home. He was working and he was not dedicating enough time to Jeffrey. At least at the beginning, he was more or less a happy child. But his father says that after a surgery that he had performed on his body, because he had appendicitis, and after this appendicitis surgical process, he said that Jeffrey Dahmer changed. But as we will see later, this is very controversial. Anyway, let's move on. When they are children, when they are not babies, they are still not attached to their parents. They don't want to spend time with their parents. They are very difficult children because they are sometimes even aggressive towards their other siblings or other kids. And when we think about Jeffrey Dahmer, he was not aggressive at all. It's true that he looked like he was completely emotionless because he was not very expressive. But we can see that he really wanted to spend time with his father. He was even asking his father to stay with him. So it's not like he really didn't like company, you know. But it's just that he was a bit strange as a kid. And also in this moment during his childhood is when he began his like of going with his father out and find some animal and perform some kind of surgical procedure on them. He made dissections on the dead bodies of animals, and he said that he found this really interesting. So we can see a bit of his compulsion in this time, but it was not well developed. Then we move on to the teenage period, when psychos are teenagers, they are difficult teenagers because they begin to learn about feelings and what they mean, but they are not able to feel them inside. So this makes them very impulsive, and they are all the time using people around them. They are not good at establishing emotional connections with others. They see the relationships with other people just as just as a way to get something. It's not a relationship like love relationship or friendship relationship, it's just to get something. And very often they become bullies towards other children or other teenagers, sorry, like in this moment it's teenagers. And when we see Jeffrey as a teenager, in fact, he was even a bit of an outcast in high school. He didn't really get along very good with all his classmates, and of course he was not like a bully towards others neither. So we can see a teenager with like really lots of problems when it comes to the socializing part, but not with the part of become a bully or being aggressive or even psychos. As a teenagers, they begin to make some kind of criminal, to be under some criminal prosecution, like minor crimes, maybe some shoplifting, but of course not like big ones, but they are beginning with a criminal life. And as we can see, Jeffrey as a teenager, what he developed was his compulsion, no? Because he discovered that he was gay, and he was embarrassed of being gay because in his family it was not very accepted. And this is normal because we're talking about the society in the 80s or something. So in these times, you know, people were not as much accepted as they are now. So this is one part of it. He was discovering his sexuality, but he was not able to share this sexuality with other people because of the times, you know. Also, we can see when he gets older and he moves with his grandma, that his grandma didn't accept his sexuality neither, because she was very religious. So now we go to adulthood. What happens in a psycho person when he becomes an adult? These adult persons are not able to create deep bonds with people around them. They don't have really good love relationships or friendships because they are not able to feel as the other people, and they are not able to create or establish good relationship with them. Also, their criminal life moves on, and they begin to commit more crimes, and even very often they end up in jail. So this affects to their personal life because they are not able neither to create good bonds with other people if they are going to jail, of course, and this affects to their work part, not to their career, because it's very difficult to create a career when you go to jail or when you're a criminal. So often in their lives they're going to be going in and out of jail. Okay, so we can see in Jeffrey Dahmer that it was very difficult for him to keep a job because he had an addiction. He was alcoholic. He began to drink a lot when his parents went under divorce, and he was even left alone at home with no father, no mother. He felt very abandoned, and he also let his compulsion grow. In this moment, he began to experiment more with his sexuality, and also he began to have some thoughts about having sex with other men. Like we can see, if his first kill, his first person that he attempted to murder was a boy that was running next to where he lived, and he was watching him on the car. So he began to have this compulsion now, but he didn't commit any crime or any murder until he met this boy on his way to a concert. And this was his first murder. He killed this boy because he tried to have some sex with him, some sexual intercourse with him, but he got rejected. Jeffrey got rejected. He didn't know how to have sex with this boy, and he killed him. And after he killed him, he began to have some kind of sexual intercourse with the dead body, and he discovered that he likes this. But he is not killing because he wants to like kill, and he enjoys the the act of killing, he wants to have sex with these dead bodies. Or that's how we can more or less understand this. And when we go to psychos, it's a bit different, because when they kill, they don't, or they are sadistic and they like to kill, or they kill because they want something and they don't mind to kill a person to get what they want. So did Jeffrey kill to get what he wants, or did he really kill just because he needed very much to get this compulsion and to release his sexual compulsion, to say it in some way? Well, this is what we are going to keep analyzing soon. Now we are going to explain the psychopathy from a genetics point of view, because it's really important to understand that genes have an impact on us. As we know, genes determine some way in our brain or personality, and some disorders, like for example, schizophrenia, can be also related with the genes we have. So it is seen in studies that have been performed in a jail population. So this is very important, because nowadays we only have studies that have been performed on people that are in jail, because it's the people that we can qualify as psychos. This is very important because these studies approximately, they say that there is between 0.75 to 1% of people that are psychos in the general population. And now in these studies they say that there are more males than females that have this risk to have a psychopathy disorder. But this is not completely established how this can be extended to the general population. So going back to these studies, to the genetics part of the study, we can see that people that have psychopathy disorder, they have lower levels of serotonin and of oxytocin when they compare it to the general population. And this it's related with a polymorphism of a long allele polymorphism of the transporter of the serotonin, which is traduced in less amount of serotonin. We have to remember that serotonin is the neurotransmitter related with happiness, with eating well, sleeping well, having a good life. So it's a neurotransmitter that gives us happiness. And oxytocin is a neurotransmitter that is related with love and emotions and bonds with other people. In fact, this neurotransmitter is released during the childbirth. So it helps with the pain, and also it increases the bond between the mother and the children. So the child, the child that is being born. So these two neurotransmitters are really related with happiness, as we understand it. And in psychopathy disorder, these neurotransmitters are lower than in the general population. Now we move to the neuroimage techniques and to the neuroanatomical part of this disorder. When we talk about psychopathy disorder and they perform some neuroimage techniques on the people that were in jail or that they were in these studies, they have seen that when they made the study and they put them under some situations, when they come to the emotional part of the situations that are described and that they have to imagine, they see that the amygdala and the insula, these two parts of the brain, are less activated than in the general population. Amygdala and insula are really important to the emotional part. They are the main emotional part of the brain. They activate, and when a person is under a situation, and the emotional response is activated in the amygdala and in the insula. So these two parts are related with emotional regulation, and they are not activated in people that have psychopathy disorder. But then we can see two parts of the brain more that are important. It's the orbitofrontal cortex and the striatum. These two parts have a dopamine circuit, but in psychopathy disorder and people that have this disorder, these two parts and these dopamine circuits are aberrant. It means that they don't work properly. They are able to feel dopamine and they release dopamine, so they have this happiness of the reward. And this explains why people that are psychos, they make impulsive decisions more than other people, and it's because the only happiness, to say it in some way, that they can feel, the only feelings, the only places of the brain that are activated are the ones that are related with reward, because dopamine is the neurotransmitter of the reward. It's the happiness that you get when you do something and you do it well and you get a reward from others. So this explains the impulsive decisions. And now we're going to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer again, because Jeffrey Dahmer said that he didn't feel any pleasure in killing and he didn't like killing. He was doing it because of this compulsion. And if we believe what he says, because there are some people that they say that this is not true and he was a psycho, because he didn't feel anything when he was killing and he was doing it in order to get his pleasure and blah blah blah. But he said that he didn't like to kill, that he had to drink a lot. So he was able to empathize as other people do, but his brain was in some kind of disorder. It's very difficult to put him in some certain disorder because he shows difficult characteristics. He has different parts, no? He has like some characteristics that reminds you to psychopath disorder, others want to antisocial, even borderline, so it's difficult to classify him. And I don't believe that he was a psycho, and I don't believe he was a psycho killer because he was showing emotions and he was showing regrets. When he got discovered and he went to jail, he showed the regret. In fact, he became a Christian and he said that he really, really, really regretted everything that he did. So we can see that he was not happy at all and he was able to empathize until a certain point. So I don't think that that's something that a psycho has. I think that he got really mentally ill because of all of this trauma that he had in his childhood, that to begin with, he was not a normal kid. And I don't think it was because before appendicitis and surgical procedure and after surgical procedure he got this kind of mental disorder. I don't think so, because psychos, they are psychos since they are born. And borderline antisocial disorders, these disorders are disorders that you have since you are born, because they are in your personality. So if he has some kind of mix between all of these disorders, that can be also affected by trauma, because I'm sorry I didn't say this in the genetics part, but even if genetics says this, it doesn't mean that because you have a lower expression of the transporter related with serotonin and oxytocin, it doesn't mean that you're going to be a psycho, because there is something very important that is called epigenetics, and epigenetics affects to the way that the genetics code is expressed. It means that the way that you live, the people around you, the environment you live, what you eat, all the things that are next to you, are around you, they have an influence on your epigenetics, and they do on the genetic code. So all of this environment makes some genes activate or inactivate. So it's really important to have this in consideration, that it's not only genetics, but it's also all the things around you that makes this activate or not. Maybe you have this in your genome, but it never activates, and maybe you have it and it gets activated. So I think that what Jeffrey could have, because I'm not a psychiatrist, is that he had a mix with his trauma of being abandoned when he was very young, of not having his mother because of the depression and his father because he was working, and all of this, along with his compulsion and with his addiction, made him the monster that he is. But it's really difficult to classify him as a psycho or not, because as we can see, these disorders are still being studied, and they are also difficult to classify them for a psychiatrist. So maybe we will know, maybe some person will make a great research and he will be able to classify him. We will never know. I hope that in this video at least you learned a lot about psychopathy and about the basis of the psychopathy, not only the psychological point of view, but also the medical point of view when it comes to the genetics and the neuroanatomical parts of the brain. And I hope you really enjoyed this video as much as I did when I did the research. Thank you so much for staying until the end of the video, and please subscribe down there, because I will be uploading lots of interesting videos about different topics and you shouldn't miss any of them. And so yes, this is all, and this is Butterfly Bones. Goodbye.